Okay, review time, unit, circle, in degrees. So 6.4 is the review. Let's work through and see what we come up with. So you're going to need to know the unit circle. Okay, you've seen this. This is no surprise. This is the way it's going to look on your test. You will need to be able to fill in the blanks. Okay, so the points that were easy were these points that are on the quadrants. So I will label these points first. So this is the point 1, 0 on the unit circle. Go up to 90 degrees. That's the point 0, 1, go all the way around to 180. That's the point -1, 0. If we go down to 270, that's the point 0, -1. Okay, those are pretty simple, just coordinates, XY coordinates. If it helps, remember that's your X axis and your Y axis. Now the other thing is just to remember that 30, 45, and 60. You've worked with these enough, and there's that thing you can do with your left hand to figure out what goes where. So in this case, I'm having a little trouble fitting everything inside these blocks, but let's just do it outside the block. So this is going to be the square root of 3 over 2, 1/2, and then at 45 degrees, that's square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2, and at 60, that is 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. Okay, so those are all the values on the unit circle. The other thing would be the plus or minus signs. So remember we had this all students take calculus. So in quadrant 1, all the functions are positive. In quadrant 2, only the sine is positive. In quadrant 3, only the tangent is positive. In quadrant 4, only the cosine is positive. So those are the plus or minus signs for all the quadrants. So you need to be able to do this correctly, because then this is the blueprint for doing everything else on this quiz. So finding the sine of 90 degrees. The sine is just the y coordinate. If you go to 90 degrees, what's the y coordinate? It is 1. The cosine, that is your x coordinate. If you go to 180 degrees, your x coordinate is -1. Tangent of 270. Remember, the tangent is just y divided by x. If you go to 270, your y coordinate is -1. Your x coordinate is 0. This is undefined. Cotangent of 45. Look at 45 degrees. Your x coordinate square root of 2 over 2. Your y coordinate square root of 2 over 2. Cotangent, remember, if tangent is y over x, cotangent is x over y. So it's square root of 2 over 2 divided by square root of 2 over 2. That is simply 1. The cosine of 720. If you need to draw this out, remember 720 is 2 complete revolutions. So it puts you right back on that initial x-axis. So what is the x coordinate at this point? You go to the unit circle, and I see the x coordinate at 1, 0. The x coordinate is 1. So the cosine of 720 is 1. The sine of 225. So if you need to draw that out, so 0, 180, this is 225 right here. So if that's 225, how much further past 180? So that makes this central angle a 45-degree angle. So this is a 45-degree angle in quadrant 3. So what is the sine coordinate? You go to the y to figure out sine. So at 45 degrees, my y coordinate is square root of 2 over 2. So this is square root of 2 over 2. In the third quadrant, what is the sine? The sine is negative in the third quadrant. So this is a negative square root of 2 over 2. Cosine of 120. So when you draw a 120-degree angle, that means this central angle is 60. So I need to figure out a 60-degree angle in quadrant 2. Cosine is the x-coordinate. So go to 60 degrees. What's the x-coordinate? It's 1/2. So this is 1/2. And then if you look in the second quadrant, cosine is negative. So this answer is a negative 1/2. Cosecant of 270. So remember that sine, that corresponds to y. So cosecant has to be 1 over y. So if I look at 270, what is my y coordinate? My y coordinate is negative 1. So this is just 1 over negative 1, which is negative 1. And then a few more of these. Cotangent of 315. So remember with 315, that's an angle that looks like this. If that's 315, then the central angle is 45 degrees. So this is a 45-degree angle in quadrant 4. Okay. The cotangent is just x over y. So if I look at 45 degrees, my x coordinate divided by my y coordinate, and then what plus or minus sign? In the fourth quadrant, tangent, cotangent will be negative. So this will be a negative 1. Sine of negative 45. So this is a 45-degree angle in quadrant 4. The sine is just the y coordinate. So if you go to the unit circle, the y coordinate is square root of 2 over 2. And then in the fourth quadrant, the sine is negative. Cosecant of 60. So remember, if the sine is my y coordinate, the cosecant is the reciprocal. So it's 1 over y. So if you look at 60 degrees, what's your y coordinate? It's square root of 3 over 2. So this one is 1 over square root of 3 over 2, which is just 2 over square root of 3. And that's in the first quadrant, so it is positive. Everything's positive in the first quadrant. Cosine of 90. What's the x coordinate at 90 degrees? So you go to the unit circle, 90 degrees, the x coordinate is 0. So this answer is 0. Okay, so it all comes from knowing the definitions. The sine is the y coordinate, the cosine is the x coordinate, tangent is y over x, and then the reciprocals. Cotangent is x over y, cosecant is 1 over y, secant is 1 over x, and then knowing the plus or minus signs. Now find angles that satisfy these conditions. Okay, so they're asking me to find where is the sine equal to negative 1/2. Okay, so first of all, where is the sine? I just look at the 1/2 part. So where is my y coordinate 1/2? That looks like a 30-degree angle. So what we're talking about here, we're talking about a 30-degree angle, and I've got a negative sign in front of this. Okay, so where is the sine negative? The sine will be negative in 2 quadrants. So in quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. Okay, so what does a 30-degree angle look like in quadrant 3 and quadrant 4? So in quadrant 3, it looks like 180 plus 30, so that's 210. And in quadrant 4, it's going to be 360 minus 30, so that's 330. Those are the 2 angles that give me the sine equal negative 1/2. Where is the cotangent equal to negative 1? So first of all, cotangent, that's x over y. Where do I get x over y being, and forget the negative part at this point, where do I get, when is x over y, when does that equal 1? Well, that's when the x and the y coordinates are identical to each other. So that only happens at 45 degrees, okay? So what we're talking about in this situation is a 45-degree angle, but wherever the tangent is negative. So if you go back and look at your unit circle, you'll know that tangent and cotangent are negative in quadrants 2 and quadrants 4. So what does a 45-degree angle look like in quadrant 2? In quadrant 2, that's 135 degrees, okay? So it's, it's 180 minus 35. In quadrant 4, it's 360. Excuse me, that wasn't 35, it was 45. And then 360 minus 45, and that's 315. Where is the secant equal to negative square root of 2 over 3? So if the secant of theta is negative square root of 2 over 3, secant is the reciprocal of cosine. That means the cosine has to be negative square root of 3 over 2. Cosine is my x-coordinate. So where do I get an x-coordinate of square root of 3 over 2? Go back to the unit circle. Where is your x-coordinate square root of 3 over 2? That happens at 30 degrees. Okay, so if I go back, this is going to be a 30-degree angle. Is it positive or negative? It's negative. So where is the cosine negative? Go back and look at your unit circle. Cosine is negative in quadrant 2 and quadrant 3. So a 30-degree angle in quadrant 2, that's 180 minus 30. So that's 150. In quadrant 3, it's 180 plus 30. So those are the two angles that give me the secant equal to negative square root of 2, negative 2 over square root of 3. Tangent is negative square root of 3. So tangent is negative square root of 3. So tangent is y over x. Where can I have y over x and get a square root of 3? So if I go back to the unit circle, y over x, it looks like at 60 degrees is where I can get a square root of 3 in the numerator. So square root of 3 over 2. So if I go to 60 degrees, y over x is square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1/2. That's square root of 3 over 2 times 2 over 1. That's square root of 3. So remember that happens at 60 degrees. So this is talking about a 60-degree angle wherever the tangent is negative. So go back and look and see tangent is negative in quadrants 2 and quadrants 4. What does a 60-degree angle look like in quadrant 2? That's 180 minus 60. 120. In quadrant 4, that's 360 minus 60. That's a 300-degree angle. Cosine is negative 1. Where is your x-coordinate negative 1? On the unit circle. That only happens one place. That's right here. Your x-coordinate is negative 1. That's a 180-degree angle. So in this case, this is 180 degrees. Now, a few more that are a little bit harder than just sort of two steps. Sine theta equal tan negative 180. So what you have to do is evaluate the thing that can be evaluated. So what's the tangent of negative 180? So if I look at that, negative 180, that's the angle that's right here. On the unit circle, that's negative 10. So y over x is 0 over negative 1 equals 0. So I know that the tangent of negative 180 is 0. That makes this equation sine of theta equals 0. Definition of sine. Sine is the y-coordinate. So where is y equal to 0? So go back to your unit circle. Where do I see y equal to 0? So it looks like y is 0 at 0 degrees and 180 degrees. So the answer to this is 0 and 180. Cotangent of 135 equal cosine. First thing to evaluate, what's the cotangent of 135 degrees? Okay, so that is a 45-degree angle in quadrant 2. So the definition of cotangent, that's x over y. So that's going to be square root of 2 over 2 divided by square root of 2 over 2. In quadrant 2, cotangent is negative. So this is just negative 1. So I evaluated half of this equation. Now this equation becomes cosine theta equal negative 1. Cosine is my x-coordinate. So where is x equal to negative 1? Go back to the unit circle. So where is the x value negative 1? That happens at 180 degrees. So this is 180 degrees. Sine of 390 equal cosine theta. First step, how to figure out the sine of 390. Okay, you can draw that. So that's 360. How much further do I have to go to get to 390? I have to go 30 more degrees. So this is that's a 30-degree angle in quadrant 1. What's the y coordinate at 30 degrees? That's 1/2. So this is 1/2. So the cosine of theta equal 1/2. This now becomes a question, where is x equal to 1/2? So I'll go back to my unit circle. Where do I see x coordinates of 1/2? That happens at 60 degrees. Okay, and it's positive. Where is the cosine positive? That happens in quadrant 2. Excuse me. Cosine is positive. That happens in quadrants 1 and quadrants 4. So a 60-degree angle in quadrant 1, that's pretty easy. A 60-degree angle in quadrant 4, that's going to be 360 minus 60. So that's 300 degrees. Okay, pretty straightforward, but guys, you got to know the unit circle. You got to know the definitions of the trig functions. Sine is y, cosine's x, tangent y over x. You got to know cotangent, cosecant, secant. You got to be real comfortable with these plus or minus signs where they are in the unit circle. Okay.